What are NLP submodalities? Stay tuned. This is Damon Cart from NLP Gym. What are NLP submodalities and why are they important? If you haven't already, please click subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can get these videos on a regular basis. There's a term in NLP called submodalities, and unfortunately, a lot of times when people try to explain submodalities, they make it sound very complicated and it ends up confusing people and they don't understand why submodalities are so important. So let's break it down. It's very, very simple. Think of your five senses as modalities. So your sight, your hearing, your taste, your smell, your touch. Think of all of those as modalities, or let's just call those modalities. These are the modalities in which you sense life around you, or information, or how you gather or take in information through your five senses. So those five senses we'll refer to as modalities. Submodalities are the sub-qualities, or the qualities of each modality. Now, I hate to call them sub because sub makes them sound less important, and they're really not. It's just like the difference between your conscious mind and calling your unconscious or calling it subconscious. People sometimes have a problem with calling it subconscious because it makes it sound like it's a lesser part of your mind, when in fact that is not true. So you can say conscious and unconscious. You can say modality and submodality. Just understand that when we say submodality, it doesn't make it any less important. But let's go with submodality. It is a chunk down, or a chunk down of the modality. So say you have the modality of your sight. So the submodality would be the size of the image, the colors, whether it's black and white or color, the richness of the colors, the dimness of the picture, the positioning of the picture. So when I imagine something, and some people say, well, I don't see images. You do. If you didn't see images, you wouldn't be able to recognize people you know. There's a lot of other reasons why you see images, but that's an easy one. So think about, how do you recognize someone you know? Well, you have an image in your mind of that person, and say you go to an airport because you're picking up your friend. Well, how would you know your friend from everyone else? You have an image in your mind and you're scanning people, and anyone who fits that image lines up and you say, oh, I recognize there's my friend. And sometimes even if you see a person who looks similar to your friend, you for a moment think that they might be them, and then once you really line up the image that's in your mind with the image of who you're seeing or the person you're seeing in front of you, you might realize, well, no, this person looks like my friend, but is not my friend. So you see images in your mind, and that would be the modality. The submodality, like I said, would be all the qualities of that image. For your hearing, the submodalities would be how loud is whatever it is you're hearing. Say you're hearing a voice in your mind. So it'd be how loud it is, how soft it is, how harsh it is, what direction it's coming from. A lot of times voices come from over our shoulder, but they can come from in front of us or on the side of us. So it'd be position or location, and then it'd be the volume would be an example. And you can really break this down into many, many categories of submodalities. Then for feelings. Now, feelings, or the kinesthetic, we have to break into two categories. Now, I've come across people who have had advanced NLP training, and they don't understand this very simple but very important distinction when it comes to kinesthetic. In fact, I had taken advanced trainings before I understood the difference between these two. When you understand this will take a lot of the confusion out of NLP and the kinesthetic modality. So kinesthetic can be proprioceptive. That's how I know where my body is in space. So if I close my eyes, I know my hands are right here. I don't have to see them to know that they're right here. I have a feeling in my body of where they are. Tactile is what I actually feel on my skin. And then there's the evaluative kinesthetic. Now, this is where people get confused a lot of times, because I'll talk to people and they'll say, oh, I'm very kinesthetic. I'm very kinesthetic. Well, we're all kinesthetic. That's the evaluative feeling part of us. This is the part of us where we see something, we hear something, and then we say, yes, I want to do that, or no, I don't want to do that. That's where it comes from, that evaluative feeling. And that usually is in the chest or the gut, or usually somewhere in the torso or body area. Lots of time people confuse that kinesthetic with the proprioceptive and tactile. So every body is kinesthetic in the sense that the feeling, the evaluative feeling, or the emotional feeling, because that's where we make decisions from. So we're all kinesthetic in that way. So submodalities of the kinesthetic can be in either of these two categories. They can be in the evaluative feeling or emotional feeling, because emotions, they have a location in your body. If you think about something you feel good about, well, where are you feeling that in your body? That's a submodality, location. And the same thing for bad feelings or nervous feelings. A lot of times you feel them in the gut. If you're feeling warm and loving, or you're feeling like you're loved, you oftentimes will feel that in the chest. So location is a submodality. Then also you could take this even further. A lot of times feelings have a temperature to them. A lot of times they have a weight to them. Feelings always have movement to them. A lot of times people say, well, the feeling doesn't have any movement. If you really go closely and you go deep into that, you'll see that feelings do have movement to them. Now, it's the feelings that are normally negative that have a very sort of static feel to them. They're moving, but they're moving either really, really slow, or they're being compressed, or they're being suppressed so that you don't feel them, and that's why they can feel really tense and tight, and that actually makes it worse. So getting in touch with the submodalities of the movement of your feelings can actually free them. And that is why the submodalities are so important, because the submodalities are the structure and the building blocks of your experiences. Now remember, you don't experience the world directly. You don't experience objective reality. You take in that information and you interpret it into your internal map and represent it or represent it internally, and then project it back out onto the world. So submodalities become very, very important, because submodalities are linked to the meaning you make of these experiences. So how bright a picture is or how dim a picture is usually says something about how you feel about that picture. Big, bright, colorful pictures that you make in your mind, or movies, they don't have to be still pictures, usually indicate something you like, something you want to do, something you enjoy. Dim, black and white pictures, or they don't have to be black and white, but like pictures that are muted, that have very dull colors, tend to be experiences you don't like, you don't want, or you want to move away from, or that they're old experiences. If you think about the submodalities of sound, say you have internal voices. What does your critical voice sound like? How loud is it? A lot of times they tend to be pretty loud, and they tend to be rather harsh sounding. The tone of the voice is probably very harsh. What is it like when you take your critical voice and you change it to something really high pitched or something soft and soothing? That's going to change the way that it affects you. Also, you can change location. If a person's critical voice is coming over their right shoulder, I'll oftentimes ask them to move it to the other side. When they do that, it oftentimes changes other submodalities, and it ultimately changes the way that they experience that voice or the way that they feel about it. Location is very powerful. If you think about somebody you trust and you make an image of that person, and then you think about a person you don't trust and you make an image of that person, more times than not, they're going to be in two different locations. And the reason for that, and this is a submodality, the reason for that is because we organize our thinking and our experiences in our personal space. So location is very powerful. It's a very powerful submodality. And when you move that location, it will oftentimes change the way we experience that, or our feelings of it, or our evaluation of it. Now, sometimes you can change a submodality and it won't have any effect whatsoever. For whatever reason, the way your mind is coding it, that particular submodality doesn't have effect on the others. Some will have a medium effect, and then others will have an effect over all of your submodalities. We call these drivers. When you change a driver submodality, it tends to affect the entire experience and other submodalities. And that's when you know you've tapped into a really powerful submodality. And this is the structure of your experience. And when you change the structure of your experience, you oftentimes will change the evaluation or how you categorize that experience, which then changes the experience overall. And this is what I get into with Steve Andreas's self-concept model. It is based on this idea of scope and category. Scope is, what are you accessing? Is it something you're seeing, hearing, or feeling, or a combination of the three or two? And then how is it being represented? And then as a result of how it's being represented, how do you then feel about that? How do you evaluate that experience? Another way of saying that is, how do you categorize that experience? Now, when you start realizing how you create these experiences of your identity, this is when you start tapping into how you've created your identity. And when you change that scope, or you change that structure, which submodalities fall into that structure, or submodalities is a way of coding that structure. When you start to change that, it will change the experience, change how you categorize it, and change how you feel about it. This affects who you believe you are, and this affects how you feel about yourself, which is your self-esteem. And that's why this is so powerful. So when you really start to understand submodalities, you can understand how you structure that experience, and then you can change how you categorize or evaluate that experience, how you feel about it. And this is everything. This is what life is about. Life is about an experience. There's not an objective reality about your experience of life. Are you having a good experience of life or a bad experience of life? Are you having a successful experience of life? Are you having an experience of life that makes you happy or not happy? It is in the structure of how you're doing that. This is why you can't be talked into being happy, or you can't be persuaded into being happy, or it doesn't matter how much someone tells you they love you and they care about you and you're a wonderful human being, you still feel bad about yourself, because you can't go straight to the category. You can't go straight to the evaluation. You have to check in with the structure of that experience. The structure of that experience holds the key to changing the experience. And submodalities are one of the strongest, most powerful elements of structure that was discovered in NLP. So when you change submodalities, it has a powerful effect on how you experience something. And that's why submodalities are so important. Check out my website, nlp-gym.com. Follow me on Facebook for real-time updates on upcoming workshops, online trainings, and talks that I might be giving in your area. Also, I have some free NLP online training on my website, nlp-gym.com. If you go there, you can sign up for the free sensory acuity training. Sensory acuity and calibration is one of the foundations of NLP. It's often overlooked by NLP students, and then they move on to more and more advanced trainings, and they can't make NLP techniques and processes work because they never really truly got that foundational skill. So this is super important. It's a great place to start. It's also great for advanced students who kind of skipped over that part. Also, I have some hypnotic tracks for free on the website as well. I have one on confidence, and then I have one on relieving stress and getting a good night's sleep. These are all free, so check them out on nlp-gym.com. Take care.